Hey guys, Dark Humility here with yet another Season 10 closed beta mini guide and demo. Today we have a down but not out, nerfed but not forgotten, Combustion Sorc with a Combustion proc Ormus. Very key, because without this item, this build really isn't much of a thing. Of course, alternatively, you could even go the new Corpse Morn with level 40 Corpse Explosion and use that in the interim of using the Combustion cooldown, but I think this is still probably the better approach. So anyway, guys, hopefully you guys are having a good one today. We are going to be going over the Combustion Sorceress. Anyway, the Combustion Sorceress, she might have got nerfed a bit. There's like a percentage drop on the Ormus, and there's the Teleport Debuff increase. So 1 second after you teleport, you lose a little bit of damage. But this build, which is very popular in Season 9, and I haven't done a guide on, and I don't know, maybe ever, I don't think I've ever done a Combustion Sorc guide, is still really, really sick. So anyway, let's go over this build, all the stats, the skills, the gear, and we'll do some demos as well in some tier 1 and tier 3 maps, or tier 1, tier 3, tier 2, whatever, and show you guys how awesome this build truly is. Anyway, without further ado, let's check her out. We've got enough strength to wear your gear, enough stats to wear your gear in general, and then I just pretty much put the rest into energy. Now with the memory staff, that's very justifiable as well. I think I actually messed up the skilling, so I can't use the memory staff, but that's okay. I might just die a little bit more than normal. I should have put two more points into Dex, but that's alright. I put max energy though, so it's going to be really good for buffering our life, so we're not dying very quickly. Max res would be really good, but of course I don't have quite enough corruptions. Also, I'm just going to focus on damage just to show you mostly what this build is truly capable of. Very important stuff. The rest of the stats don't matter too much, but you're going to want a lot of Fire Pierce on this build, a lot of plus skills, and a lot of FCR in general. But energy is going to buff up your energy shield, make this build pretty tanky. That being said, you don't need a lot of life either, especially if you're using the weapon we're using, which is Skull Collector. If you're not using that, you might want to have more vitality, energy balance. It's kind of up to you. I really think 200 faster cast rate combustion is really the only way to go if you want to play this at a really high level. It could probably do fine in tier 1s at 105, but 200 is definitely what makes this build really shine, because you're going to want to proc the combustion on the Ormus on casting. Ormus is like really good on a Sorc, like really quintessential since the last season when they did the Ormus rework. And you've got on casting effects on all of the Ormuses, so it's a pretty big deal. You're going to want as much Fire Pierce and just fire damage as you possibly can. Res could be a bit better. FHR, we could definitely use a little bit more FHR here, but 34, I don't know, 30, 42, 60, 86, it's all kind of okay. If you have less than 30 though, you might struggle on maps with negative FHRs, so be careful. We're going to hit 200 faster cast rate, which is the maximum Sorceress cast rate breakpoint for using all of our skills, including Fireball and Teleport. Combustion is a cooldown, so that's not really affected when we actually use our own combustion, but that's about it. Combustion is just super fun, super devastating, so we're about to get into it here soon, but just going over some basics. MPK and LPK are also very, very good skills. Stats. We have a lot of MPK on this build. Ideally, we would have a decent amount of LPK as well, but we don't, because we're missing some of those corruptions due to limitations of getting items on beta. Alright. And then, of course, you're going to want max Fireball, and Combustion. Those are the synergies, and, of course, max Fire Mastery for Pierce and more damage. 1 point into Warmth for mana regen. 1 point into either Shiver Armor or Chilling Armor. Sometimes you get up close to the monsters, though, so I would just take one into Shiver Armor. Chilling Armor is more for, like, ranged enemies. And then, because Teleport did take a bit of a debuff hit this season, because let's be frank, Sorcs are probably a little too strong last season, you are still going to want to put a lot of points into Teleport to minimize that debuff as much as possible. And then, of course, have 1 point of Energy Shield, or make sure to use Memory Staff to get it. One really cool benefit of the Sorc in Season 10 is that when you use Energy Shield, even if you lose all your mana and the monster hits you again, you will not lose the Energy Shield. It will just have damage go to your life, like normal when you're out of mana, but you still will have your Energy Shield, so you don't have to reapply it, for instance, when you use a potion to refill it, like a mana potion or a Juve. So that's really cool. And that's the one buff the Sorc got this season. The rest of the things are kind of nerfs. You know, they nerfed some of the casting effects in the Ormuses. Like I said, Combustion they did. You know, they nerfed the Teleport debuff. They nerfed some skills like Frost Nova and Nova. But for the most part, the Sorc is still crushing it in the late game. With good gear especially. No problems. Absolutely smoking the game. Anyway, let's see. So we have Fireball, Combustion. Okay, so we're good to go on that front. Alright, let's go over the Mercenary real quick. Mercenary, Infinity is still probably best in slot most of the time. You could do pretty well with like lower resist on the Merc, or even using Ming Song's Lesson to proc it yourself on a build like this. And you would probably be okay, and it does so much damage, and it hits a lot of things outside the range of Infinity anyway. So yeah, you could definitely get away with some other solutions for this build. Heck, you could even use maybe a Static Field Lightning Act 3 Mercenary to lower the HP of monsters a bit so the Combustion does more damage. But Infinity is still the go-to, of course, in most Sorceress builds in the late game. And then the rest is just going to be survivability, life steal, sustain, shaft stop so the Merc doesn't die. And then Flickering Flame, which gives us flat fire damage. So you might notice that my damage actually increases when I put this on the Mercenary. At least it increased in the Fireball a little bit. So it increased about maybe the equivalent of like 600 to 1k. So Flickering Flame also gives us really high fire res, so there's nothing wrong with that as well. With the Resist Fire Aura giving us both fire damage and fire res in PD2. Alright. Also, it's a Defiance Aura Mercenary. Pretty basic stuff, you know, defense. Gets your defense up a little bit, and of course gives you physical damage reduction, so you're a little tankier. This build's pretty glass cannon though, without the bone armors, so we might even die while demoing it, because maybe, I mean, if I was playing hardcore, I would definitely go items like maybe Dungos. I'd go a lot of other items, but that's besides the point. Anyway, let's go over her gear. So we're gonna wear Skull Collector. This item's actually a nerfed item as well, so they I think it's overall a nerf. The bone armor is a lot stronger, but you only have a 2% chance to cast it. So when I tested this in the first go on this character, it can be pretty unreliable. Like, sometimes you'll get it pretty fast, and other times you won't even get it within the first like minute of mapping sometimes. Like 30 seconds, like 60 seconds. It's I don't know if you can fully rely on surviving on this, so this is why Energy Shield's going to be important on this build as well. Just keep that in mind, that you can't just tank everything like you could before when you just like teleport around and proc that bone armor on casting, just no problem. We have a comment from the live chat. We are actually making these mini guides and demos live. So the chat says Ferocity would probably be better on the Merc. Yeah, Ferocity is a really expensive option that could be good. I think on fire builds, I like the extra damage a little bit though. And also Ferocity is really expensive. Use Ferocity and Innocence. We can get the monsters to clump up with Taunt like we did on another mini guide and demo, Frost Nova. But I think on this build we could build it like this and it'd be just fine as well. We're not really trying to like jump like clump them up necessarily because we hit so many monsters really far away. So I don't really know. It's not necessarily best in slot on this character. There's definitely a few different options. Another thing that's optional, of course, besides the Skull Collector, which gives you amazing stats, you know, MF, mana after each kill, plus skills. Potential for a lot of sockets as well with a really good corruption like this one. However, I think Ming Song's Lesson is also really good, especially with the Bone Armor nerf. Ming Song's Lesson would actually increase our damage because it would give us more fire damage and give us more plus skills. We're going to demo this with the new Skull Collector though, just to show you how the new Skull Collector and the build works overall and how it does it. We have a Combustion Ormus, which I still think is kind of required for this build. And then Fire Skills, FCR, Fire Skills, FCR, Fire Skills, FCR, Skills, FCR, Skills, Mana Pool for the Energy Shield, pretty good, Mana per kill. All those things are really good. It'd be good to have some LPK as well, like I mentioned earlier. And then, of course, your typical Fire GCs. LCs will never be better, by the way, on this character. Don't worry about large charms because you have Mastery on a Sorceress. The GCs pretty much always went out, even on the meme builds, oddly enough. And then, of course, you have Annie, Torch, and you have Life, Res, Small Charms. You can also have Mana, Life, Small Charms, and that's also good. And you also don't need Charms that good. It helps, though, in the highest and most difficult content, such as Tier 3 maps, such as some of the areas we'll be demoing here. Memory would boost our Energy Shield quite a bit. Hard points in Energy Shield would make it a lot more resilient, so that when you do take damage to your mana, you take less of it. However, we're going to go software. We're going to go hard in the paint. Let's do it. Let's show you this build and how it operates. So the way this build works, if you're unfamiliar, is that since we have 200 FCR, we're going to try to proc this combustion on the Ormus as often as possible, and then we're going to try to fire our own combustion off cooldown. This does take a little bit, this does have a bit of a skill ceiling, like a skill cap. You do kind of have to time it. You gotta be like 1, 2, 3, you know, as you're firing fireballs to get this to proc. You can just fire this one as well, and then you can just blow up even more monsters, and it's very devastating skill. Definitely still pulling amazing numbers despite the nerfs. So we're gonna show it off here, and hopefully you guys enjoy this skill and enjoy this playstyle. Is that Skull Collector upgraded? It is. I actually forgot to mention that. If you wanted to hit 80 faster cast rate instead of, I think, the 60 or 50 that it has in its exceptional form, I think it's 60, you do have to upgrade it using the Pull Lum Perfect Emerald recipe, and then you can get 80 FCR. This is a very, very strong version of this build, though, and I love to show off builds at their max power to inspire people to build awesome builds in PD2. Here we go. Okay. And make sure you get that energy shield. I would use this, but I messed up. I would have actually strengthened my energy shield a bit, but it's okay. Alright, so as you teleport, believe it or not, as well, sometimes you'll also fire the combustion just from teleporting. At least, yeah, okay. Obviously, any cast at all could potentially fire it from the Ormus, and you're noticing that it does a lot of damage to them from the Ormus. Alright. Now, what we're supposed to do is like this, alright? Fire that, just teleport around. Yeah, we're gonna... Oh, looks like our energy shield expired, nice. So it can't fall off of you from damage, but it can still expire via the timer, so that's a thing. So notice I try to time it to where like every 3 seconds I'm using the combustion. Then otherwise I'm firing fireballs really fast, and then teleporting around. And you can see it just absolutely levels like whole rows of cows. It's kind of like in the Confederate War, you know, or you'll see like a Civil War reenactment. One of the sides fires all their muskets and then the front line just falls from the other side. It's kind of what's going on here. It's an absolute volley of death. Here you go. When did the build guides hit YouTube? As soon as I can get them up there. Sooner than the tier list as well. They'll come first, and then the tier list will come after. Tier list and infographic, by the way, will be released after open beta ends. Probably somewhere around on the 23rd. Remember, Season 10 starts the 25th of October, which is, I believe, still 10 a.m. PST, like they always do. I'll admit that my timing is not always perfect, but once you get like really good at this build, it becomes like second nature. I was like a little early there on the switch. Look at that clutch. So you'll notice that that bone armor really doesn't proc too often. And then sometimes you get it like multiple times, like right now, just really lucky. 2% is not much anymore, so you gotta watch it. It is a higher level than it was before though. And remember, putting all your points into energy, if you're not a Necromancer fan, if you don't know how Necromancers work, actually makes the bone armor stronger, so it synergizes with the bone armor. So not only is it synergizing with energy shield, it's synergizing with bone armor, making it doubly as strong. So this is why if you're using Skull Collector, max energy is definitely the play, 100%. Anyway, you can see this build absolutely crushes it. Only thing that's kind of don't like about it, it's going to leave some stragglers probably in a place like the cow level. That's about it. Alright, let's continue here. When's open beta? Tomorrow. I will not be playing open beta. I have work. I'm going to be uploading videos. I'm going to be just doing some other things. But all you guys that didn't have access to closed beta can have fun leveling a character and trying out some of the changes in open beta. Alright, so what map should we do, chat? You know what? I have an idea. Let's do the new map. Let's do a tier 2 as well. Let's do a Scovos Stronghold. Let's do a tier 2. I believe there's no fire immunes in here, if I remember right. There's no immunes. Actually, wait, is this the one? Yeah, this is the one with lightning immunes, I think. I think there's no fire immunes in the other new one either, if I remember. No, wait, there's fire immunes in that one. There's no lightning immunes in the other one. Okay, here we go. Oh, there's poison damage. Oh man, poison goes right through the energy shield. That's bad. Oh, I'm gonna have to use some juves then. Lazy juve usage. I can always get normal pots if I wanted to, but it's easier to spawn juves, so I'm just gonna show you that way. You want to fire fireball like constantly. Oh wow. See, that's what I'm talking about. So notice, that's actually a good demonstration there of something. So notice how, if you were playing this in Season 9, your Skull Collector would probably have already procced Bone Armor. I didn't have any Bone Armor yet. If I had Bone Armor, there's no way those bolts would have gotten through and I wouldn't have died. But, yeah. Can definitely happen now. Definitely wasn't even paying attention to it. Definitely gotta watch that. And so, like, one thing to note here is that, that can definitely happen. Yeah, also, I mean, I gotta note, that was a nasty pack, but, like, still. Like, that can happen. That can happen. That can happen. Oh, wow. You can always just kite them out, though, a little bit better, you know, instead of just base tanking them. Alright, looks like we actually do have a little bit of a bone armor going on now. But it doesn't... It procs so infrequently that... Oh my god. Wow! Okay. Boss killed us, I think. Boss is dangerous. Anyway, that was cool. So you can see that definitely getting the energy shield up would help as well. One thing you might be noticing here is that, let's see. One thing you might be noticing here is that our low energy shield from lack of getting it means that our mana isn't helping out too much. And so we're only 41% of the damage we're taking goes to the mana at the moment. And our health isn't very high, so it's kind of going right through it. This is why if you put more points in energy shield, you won't have this problem as well. So it's a little bit of a scuffed build. But you can see though that with poison damage on the map and some really nasty stats. Actually, is there even poison damage on the map? Maybe there's just a lot of poison damage in the map in general. I don't know. Definitely die. Well, that didn't look good. Do gotta say, without bone armor in this map, the archers are really dangerous. This is a cool new map too, though. The good thing about softcore, though, is you could build a build as janky as this and you'll be okay. No memory required. Look how many combustions can shoot out sometimes, though. It's crazy. And even though it's only level 23, like, because you have all the synergies, the fire mastery, that's when the procs really shine in PD2, is when you have synergies or something like fire mastery. Or in the case of, like, corpse explosion on the new corpse horn, which I don't know if we'll make a video on, but the fire mastery on the sword can actually make that really good. You can use corpse horn with this build. It's actually quite interesting. Well, that was a scuffed demo. Oh, that happens. It's okay. Getting the timings better anyway. Yeah, it's a little bit of a scuffed build defensively, but that's okay. I would definitely on hardcore make sure to fix these problems. No way I'm losing my character like this. It's an interesting boss. It's got a volcano. What was your setup for the Death Sentry test? That one was quite interesting. We used Viper Fork and Innocence on the Mercenary. You can find it in yesterday's VOD. And then, of course, on our Self, we used Stalker's Coal and Phoenix for a lot of sustain, and we got max block as well, so you could like jump into monsters, have the Merc proc corpses, and then the Death Sentry blow everything up. We'd like jump into the mobs, cast some Death Sentries, jump into the next pack of mobs, and so on. Death Sentry Assassin is a real build. When I go over the tier list video, I will for sure touch on what that build kind of is, so people understand it, and if they want to build it, they definitely can. I don't know if I'll actually make a, I might make a demo video. I might post a demo, but not like a demo and mini guide, so like, I don't know, I might not go over the gears super thoroughly. I might. I don't know. One way or the other. We'll definitely do something. Alright, let's see. What should we do? I guess I could still do Pledgeathon despite the fire immunes in there, because there's just some Siege Beast fire immunes. Let's show off another tier 3 here. Not with souls, though. Souls eat through energy shield. Very bad idea on my sorceresses, if you ask me. Unless you plan on doing some kind of HP sorceress using like Obsession or something. Obsession Staff or Chromatic Ire. That's what I did for doing, so in Season 4 I got a sorceress to 99 on hardcore. In dungeons, where there's of course souls, my Sorc had like 2800 HP. And I used Chromatic Ire to slow the monsters as well. And I didn't really have much of a mana pool at all. I had like 1 point energy shield just to buffer the health a bit. Because, you know, dungeons just do so much damage. And, yeah, it was kind of nice, actually. You can make an HP Sorceress, it's a thing. I'd say most of the time, though, you know, the strengths of the Sorc definitely lie in the energy shield, absolutely. Alright, and anyway, here we go. This is actually the last Sorc mini guide and demo I'm making this season, actually. So I made one for Frost Nova, and I even made one for Bear Sorceress. You should definitely check that one out. It's actually pretty fucking strong. And it's really tanky and really clean. Uses Odyssean's Awakening, believe it or not. An item that a lot of critics have called useless. But I can assure you it is not. Do I have... Okay, there's a... Must have been Holy Freeze somewhere. So you can also fire the combustion on cooldown. You can do this as well. Depends on how much of your map you want to waste, honestly, but you can see just how fast and how many monsters just die instantaneously, like all the time. An open map like this is pretty good. If you go like an HP version of this, like using Skull Collector, you could do Ashen Plains really well too. There's no fire immunes. And then as long as you get your light res up, you won't die to the souls. Just gotta max it out or stack it, you know. See, right now I have the... You'll notice I have bone armor, right? When I have bone armor, I seem really tanky. The problem, though, is that it's only 2%. So if you use this item now, be careful. A lot of people used to run this build on hardcore because you pretty much just had insanely strong bone armor all the time with all the energy you put on the sorceress. But yeah, I noticed that my bone armor ran out there, and look what almost happened. Almost died. I don't have bone armor right now. I'm gonna try to proc it here for a second. Let's see if I can get it going. No. 2% really relies on RNG, man. Like, it's brutal. That's definitely something you're gonna have to watch out for in Season 10 if you're playing this build. Especially on hardcore. I don't know, hardcore with Skull Collector might not be enough DR. You might want to have some backup defenses like damage reduction. You know, things of that nature. Make sure your energy shield's really strong, that kind of stuff. Which mine is not currently. So yeah, cool stuff. If I'm playing softcore, like I am now, and for the majority of the player base that doesn't care if they die, yeah, of course, because it's fun to play low defense builds and just kill things with insanely high damage. What's up, Papito? How you doing? Anyway, that is it for the Combustion Sorc mini guide and demo. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and are inspired to build this awesome build. Last season I would have said it was even stronger. It had 12% instead of 8% to cast, which made it really insane. And of course this used to be more insane too, the Skull Collector, and the Teleport Debuff was, I think you could get it to 0 honestly on this build instead of 18 or 15 depending on how many plus skills. You could always make every build even stronger with perfect gear, which this does not have. And obviously sacrificing some damage for maybe like hard points and an energy shield would make this build really tanky. So it's always easy to make builds tanky and to fix defensive problems if you hate how squishy it is. But anyway, GG. See you guys in the next one. Dark Humility, signing out from the Mad Lab. See you guys in Season 10, October 25th. Get it, get it, get it. Crush it.